Well, what are you excited about this weekend?
Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Yes, big game.
Is it a big game?
It is a big game. It's a wild card game. They beat Miami. They're in the playoffs, or they continue in the playoffs.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. We have a dynasty
How do you feel about
on the
that?
line. I think we'll win. We'll beat Miami for sure.
You have a good feeling about it?
Yes, I think.
Are you reluctant to say that?
No. I do have a good feeling about the Chiefs. I'm very optimistic, but I think that's irrational. Kind of irrational. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a beast in the playoffs. So, I mean, you can't really doubt him in the playoffs. I think that's objectively true. He's amazing in the playoffs. But our offense isn't stellar this year. So I think I have some like pie in the sky hopes for a Super Bowl run, which is probably statistically is unlikely. They don't have a high probability of getting to the Super Bowl, but Miami, who we're playing, is very injured, and they're not a cold weather team at all. And it's going to be one of the coldest games of all time.
Oh my
Negative
gosh.
5 degrees.
That's crazy. Is that the high?
No, that's the game temp.
Okay.
Because it's at night and
Okay.
it's no sun. Yeah, it's going to be so cold.
That's crazy.
Imagine.
Do you think that's the coldest that someone like Patrick Mahomes has ever played in?
I don't know. I mean, it could be the coldest game for both franchises. So I think so. I mean, he was in college and he's a Texas kid.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was
a
ever that
Tech.
cold. So yeah, I mean, for the Chiefs though, they would have some advantage in they're in Kansas City right now. So they're practicing in the colder
cold,
weather. And also they're in Kansas City. So they're used to the cold weather. Not this cold, but they would have far more familiarity with playing in the cold. And Tua, the quarterback for Miami, is like notoriously terrible in the cold. I don't think he's ever
Really?
won a game. Well, I mean, it changes like.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
I mean, is it like physics? I don't know. It's like what the weather affects, like how far you can throw the ball, and the ground will be slippery. I mean, I guarantee you, like one of the offensive or D line will like have short sleeves on, like they won't have long sleeves on. That's just like a power,
like
move.
a taunt.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, you're cold. I don't even need sleeves. So I'm really excited about that. So that's kind of.
I'm wondering what that does to the body. You know, I was shoveling snow in the cold the other day, and I didn't realize how much I actually sweat.
Yeah,
But like, what does it do to a football player?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot of people on the sideline that are keeping them warm. They have coats. I'm sure they have like hot air circulating through like helmets. I have no idea, but I'm sure
They probably have some technology.
Yes, but it still would be a shock to the system and the exertion. I mean, they're peak physical specimens. So like if a 50-year-old overweight guy can shovel his driveway when it's like -10 in Wisconsin, you would think that like an
They would
athlete
be
could
able to
play
do
a
it.
football game. I mean,
Yeah.
people play in the cold. Football's a cold weather sport.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about it.
I wonder what's worse, like extreme heat or extreme cold?
That's a great question.
Because I feel like extreme heat might be worse.
I think it is worse. See, I mean,
Right?
people die of like sunstroke.
exhaustion, yeah.
Yeah, more than like, is there any cold stroke? Like
Right.
a winter cold
being
exhaustion? Of like hypothermia. Oh yeah, that's the equivalent.
But like, you don't hear that
No,
as
you have to,
often
no,
as
you're
you,
like
I mean,
people get hypothermia and die in like on Everest,
Yeah.
like or in Antarctica if they like can't get back home.
Right.
But, it's not like
that's not funny, by the way, but
No,
I don't know
it's
why
not,
I'm
but
laughing.
I mean, I honestly am like, I know people who have passed away from sunstroke. I've never known anyone to die from hypothermia.
Right. So I'd imagine for the athlete, it's probably a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's kind of. I think psychologically it could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like, look at us, we're so bad. Beep.
But when you're dehydrated,
Well, they're not going to be dehydrated.
no. As opposed to like, there's a superheat.
Oh, I was
You know
like,
what I mean?
do have water boys and girls. They have both.
There's lack of.
Yeah, they don't get water. Extreme NFL. Extreme.
It's crazy. I mean, for the fans, is that even safe?
I mean, it could be unsafe for sure. I think
Is there like a travel advisory to the playoff games?
Well, there probably is some cold weather advisory.
Yeah.
I'm really out of my depths here. I'm sure, but like I'm
Like
sure-
children? Can children be out in
no,
-5?
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
No, but like, does a little kid need to go to a playoff game? Like,
yeah.
they don't know what's going on.
Nah, it's
like an
true.
infant when they have those like big headphones on, and you're like, well, maybe you just couldn't find a sitter, but like that, the kid doesn't
Need to
know.
be here. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a lot of tickets, especially like season ticket holders who have access to the playoff tickets first. They are like, apparently you can buy mini tickets. There are mini tickets available online. So one of the narratives is, oh, Chiefs fans, no one's going to be there. But the other narrative is like, rich, snooty folks aren't going to go.
Right.
But now that there's more tickets that are going to be cheaper, you're going to get like the real diehard Missouri fan.
Missouri.
That doesn't
unless
care
you
about
get
the
a
cold.
box.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd
I
be
would.
awesome. That'd be
Yes,
optimal.
that'd be,
But then, like,
that would be optimal.
okay, I'm obviously super ignorant in all of the sports world. But it does beg the question, like, why don't they just make indoor stadiums?
Well,
What's the downside of that?
I don't. I mean, they do like
Right,
cold
like-
weather cities, like
Sure.
the Colts, like Minnesota. I
Or
mean,
even the Cowboys, they have an indoor
yeah,
stadium.
but that's just because the Cowboys want to spend money. They have no need for it. Maybe the Heat, but they do play in the fall primarily. So I think that's just like a money thing. It is expensive, and older stadiums don't have them.
But is there a preference of like, I don't want to play indoor, I want to play outdoor?
Well, it does affect I'm shockingly have never played football, but like indoor stadiums, I think I could be conflating this with baseball, but I'm pretty sure like it's easier on the offense if it's indoor, and I don't know if that's true at all. So I might want to strike that from the record. But like I have some in my mind, it's like if you're in a dome, like it's easier to throw the ball, which maybe it's because like the elements are
Right.
controlled. It's
Yeah.
not like the wind or sort of
Right.
whatever kind of makes the ball go,
yeah.
slows the ball down. And so I think in that sense it would be good. Like in baseball, I think. Are there domes in baseball? I'm pretty sure there are.
Yeah.
I think it does so it helps the offense, probably harder on the defense. But I don't know. The Chiefs have considered it, but they would have to redo. Like they would have to
redo it.
It
Yeah,
would cost a lot of money, but
for sure.
some people I think like it. It's like we've all seen the clips of like football games in the snow.
Yeah.
When the players are in the snow and the
Yeah.
field is white. I mean that's kind of iconically football. So I don't know if there's any preference for the sake of like we're tough.
Yeah.
We don't need no dome.
Right.
And it doesn't get that cold in Kansas City typically. So
Yeah. I mean, this weekend is probably it's so unique.
it's
Like,
an aberration. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
never had a game this cold.
wow, that's crazy though.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm so
It's
excited.
gonna be fun.
I'm very excited.
Well, today we are going to talk about the incarnation.
Yes.
And just the importance of the incarnation. What does the incarnation mean for us?
Yeah.
So, kind of a cool segue. I mean, we're all talking about
Talking about bodies,
body.
football bodies.
the limits of
The
the body.
platonic ideal of a body is probably like a ripped wide receiver, honestly. So it's like if we're talking about incarnational realities, like, oh, that's what the ideal human male form
Here's
is.
the ideal
Honestly,
body.
like if you've seen like DK Metcalf, it's like, oh,
Oh, sure.
yeah, I mean, they're kind of like the platonic ideal of bodies.
I mean, and imagine the
Incarnation.
amount of work that goes into that.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And discipline.
Yes.
Like almost kind of like
it's their
insane.
job. It's almost like it's their job.
no, but kind of insane.
It is.
I mean,
yeah. They
you know?
cultivate those bodies, and even like offensive linemen. We will get to the
and
actual
the,
incarnation.
and the psychology that goes
Yes.
into that, like the mind
but
focus.
it's like I bring up the O line because they're usually like a little heavier, so you could see an O lineman and be like, oh my gosh, like they're a little overweight. No, they have to be substantial because they are the ones that are like trying to stop these big D linemen
Yeah.
or linebackers from hitting the quarterback. So that takes the same amount of discipline. They just work out differently because they have to like keep the weight and they're
Yeah.
so strong. And so all of them are like athletes in that sense are so I'm impressed by athletes because it takes a discipline
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have a certain insight into the human body. I know they have a lot of people helping them,
sure,
but like the
like-
best athletes are all freak athletes and then insanely disciplined. Which is, I mean, that's great. Like
That
you
is
have the
great.
natural talent. Like you
Yeah.
have something that most people don't have.
there's natural virtue.
Oh
in it.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you have to sort of then use like discipline and self-control to like master it. Sounds very impressive to me.
I mean, whenever I think of that, and we'll get to the incarnation, but I just have one more thing to say. In terms of like diet,
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine not being able to
And you like some athletes are freaks. So Tom Brady is notorious for like eating lettuce and carrots, and he wants to live forever, and so he doesn't eat anything. But then there's like basketball players or like famous for like eating Skittles on the sideline. So I think food is a huge part of it as well. But I think that's probably the one that there's a little bit of room for, and like Patrick Mahomes sometimes looks really cut and you're like, wow, he's slimmed down. And sometimes it's like, oh, you drink a lot of like Bud Lights or like Coors Lights.
Coors Light.
So it's like, I think that would be the discipline that probably would be the fluctuate the most.
I think he likes Coors Light.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he likes to down him, which, hey, good for him.
Hey,
Best
why not?
Football player of all time, maybe.
Go for it, brother. Okay, so the incarnation, what does it mean for us and just the import of the incarnation? Obviously, we just finished this Christmas season, and it's the celebration of the incarnation, God in the flesh. That's basically what incarnation means. God assumed a human nature to redeem us in ours. And so what does it mean for you, Katie? Like, what do you think about when you think of the incarnation?
I think of a lot of things when I think of the incarnation, but I think there's something astounding in the fact that God became man, that the creator stepped into his creation and now looks like us on some deep, essential level. It's a humble sacrifice of the Lord, but also is such a gift to us, so that this human body, at like the simplest level, like this human body is important because I look like Jesus in this human form. And with Jesus, he's other than, like he's the second member of the Trinity. And so to be able to be like, oh, but I can actually conceptualize of him because I also have this human form. I just think it gives us a dignity that's so simple to grasp. It's like, oh, this form is similar to what Jesus looked like when he was on earth, what he looks like now, what he will look like when he comes back. So I think there's something kind of awe-inspiring about that this body matters and that he kept his human form when he ascended into heaven. Always struck me. I never really thought about that. Like, of course I knew about the incarnation, been a Christian for my entire life, but the fact that it wasn't like, oh, okay, I was the human, I could redeem humanity when I came down and as a baby, and then once I was resurrected, I'll go back to heaven, I'll rid myself of this fleshly cage, right? It's like, oh no, he retains it, and he sort of has that glorified body that we too will have when he comes again. So like we're bodied now and we're bodied when he comes back to, claim his people for himself. So I think it's just the body matters so much. The incarnation is what makes it matter beyond even the Imago Dei. So I always like incarnation, Imago Dei are related to me. It's kind of, I don't know if I'm smart enough to really extrapolate, the Imago Dei to the incarnation, but I think obviously being created male and female in the image of God, Genesis 1, is beautiful, and the incarnation just redeems and confirms the purpose of the Imago Dei. So I also see those things as very much linked in my mind.
And I think too, like for us to start with the incarnation this year, I think it's appropriate because in our culture there is such a disregard for the body, or there's like these extremes in regards to the body. Either I'm totally separate from my body, I'm not at home in my body, or my body is whatever my body reacts to arousally is who I am. Like all of these things in which we misinterpret what the body is and the import of it. And I think what the incarnation does for me is that it grounds it in Jesus. So in that he assumed a body, he came to redeem us in our bodies, and our bodies matter. So I appreciate that Jesus is a sexual being.
Yeah.
He has a body, he has a gendered sexuality. He's a man, and in his humanity, he redeems both men and women.
Yes. And what I like too is I was thinking about this on my own, and then I Googled it, and like I had a thought that St. Thomas Aquinas had, so I felt like a genius. Yeah. I'm like, wow, am I kind of the female Aquinas? No, but something about Mary. So Mary in her body, her able to receive and bear and bring into the world the God-man is so redemptive of the female body. Like that there's something so powerful and essential and ennobling about Mary's ability to receive and bring forth life, which for women is so uniquely powerful because Jesus' body is male. So that has, of course, implications for me as a bodied person, even though I'm female. The incarnation is so important for me. But as a woman, there's something so special about how the incarnation and how it came about. Because, I mean, Jesus didn't have to be born of woman. He's God. He could have come out of, he could have just appeared. He could have come as a man. But the fact that he came of infant, of woman is so ennobling for women. That's what Aquinas said. It ennobled both the male and the female body beyond kind of comprehension. So for me as a woman, even though I don't have kids, it's not like, oh, and as a mother of 7, I totally relate to it, but I receive things. I bring life out of my deep reception and contemplation of things. And so the incarnation being brought by female body is also so powerful. So I think that really causes you to honor your body and its purposes, you were designed to be in your male form and my female form. It makes it sacred. Yeah. It's not something that I can just wish away or surgically move or take, birth control because I don't want to do that. And so I want to separate my body from procreation, where the incarnation is like, no, this is like what it's for. And so I just thought that, like, I never really thought about the incarnation in Mary, but in thinking about this podcast, I was like, man, that's so beautiful. Women are so powerful in our female form and what that represents, right? What the physical reveals about us also internally.
And it seems like it reflects too that Imago Dei reality.
Absolutely.
Jesus as the new Adam, Mary as the new Eve.
Yeah.
They sort of redeem that seminal
so and you need to have both the Imago Dei and the incarnation, like, together. It does create such a powerful anthropology for believers, and we would say for all humans, that some of these issues that are circulating today about same-sex attraction or being transgender, it's like it seems untenable in a Christian worldview to believe in the incarnation and the Imago Dei and then hold all these other beliefs to be true. There's something so essential about both of these things that are mysteries, and we do well by just being like, oh, that's so true and mysterious, and I will let that truth guide how I am as this bodied person in 2024.
Now, when we look at the mystery of the incarnation, it's pretty grand and pretty big, and some people would maybe say inaccessible, but I think the power of the mystery is that it is so accessible.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus is an accessible person.
Yes.
Divine person, human nature. And someone who's really helped me through this is Leanne Payne.
Okay, yes.
Leanne Payne really had a focus on what she would call the real presence, like practicing the presence, practicing the capital P presence of Jesus. Now, of course, Catholic, Anglican, Protestant, or whatever you are, like that maybe means something different for you. But what I liked about Leanne Payne is that it's so accessible, either as a Catholic or an evangelical, because what she says is, and as a guy who comes out of same-sex attraction, there's like at times a feeling separate from my identity, or I'm tempted to sort of grasp after my own, when in fact I have everything that I'm trying to grasp. So what am I striving after? And there's some sort of split or a gap that I'm experiencing in those moments of heightened homosexual temptation or heightened homosexual attraction. And so what Leanne Payne really urges us to do is to practice the presence. And what does that mean? It's like actually practicing incarnate Jesus being in us, like almost me aspiring to become more like him. Because like you said, we look like him. You know what I mean? And we can do that in a mystical way.
Yes.
Like, come Lord Jesus, like help me to be centered, like divine. She's known for divine objectivity. Like, I am a man, I am a woman. I can do this. Like, Lord, you are living in and through me, and through your incarnation, I can rise to really take the narrow way through this experience that is tempting me to go sideways in my reality.
Yeah.
You know?
And I completely relate to that, not with same-sex attraction, but, you know, for me, my story, and I think for a lot of women and sort of the nature of the fall being sort of beholden to this man is that like my tendency would be to hate my body. It's not to eroticize other women's bodies so much. I mean, maybe in a little bit because like, oh, in comparison, but just like, oh, my body's ugly. It doesn't measure up. So whatever standard of beauty that exists, I am not that. And your body becomes the most sort of obvious, like humiliating, like costume. It's like I'm wearing my humiliation when I feel like my body is too big or not sort of what it should be, and it's awful. And so then you're like, I hate this body. Like, so then it's like, oh God, you know, the incarnation in the Imago Dei, when I hate my body, it can be very easy to dismiss the significance of both. And so practicing like divine objectivity, being like, no, this body is beautiful and good, and it reflects something unrepeatably about God's image, right? That's why John Paul II, the unrepeatable, I like that because it's like women, I mean, men too, but women fall more under this is the standard of beauty as opposed to no, this is an unrepeatable vision of God in my body. And so mine is like, I don't want to hate this body. Yeah. So it's a little different in terms of what's the genesis of it, but it's the same. Like, no, I'm a woman and this body is good. And I can't divorce being woman from my body. Yeah. So when I'm hating my body, I'm hating my femininity. So yeah, I think that's so helpful for, I mean, probably most people, there's some rejection of this body and what it's made to be. So we would say for the other, right? Man for woman, woman for man. And so when that is astray, and for me, it was just not feeling accepted by men. And so part of that was like, well, my body, it's my body. That's why men don't like me. I mean, honestly, for a lot of women, it's like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. My body isn't attractive enough. That's why I'm not with the other, or it doesn't last with the other. And so you hate your body. And the incarnation is like the best antidote for that. That's real body positivity, not just like, oh, I'm beautiful no matter what. Sure. But it's like, no, this body matters. Right. Like the divine took on human flesh and I'm going to have this body. It will be better and have it, or when he comes back. But so for me, it's equally as helpful to be like, divine objectivity. This body is good.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing in what you're saying is like appreciating the kind of man that I am, the kind of woman that you are, because we mirror Jesus in a unique way that no one has or ever will again.
Exactly.
And so I need to appreciate my particular humanity.
Yeah. And by projecting it in some way, is that a bit of a rejection of the Imago Dei, a rejection of the incarnation that no, Lord, but this body is bad and awful. And it's worldly thinking. We're being, that's what it is. And that's the same with our sexuality. It's like, oh, I'm worldly. I'm letting the world name my beauty or my sexuality, or I'm letting my brokenness name it, as opposed to, no, this is the objective truth.
Right.
You're a woman, a good gift. You're beautiful because you reflect him. I need to not be conformed to the world in my thinking. And so, I think it's really powerful to be objective. And the truth of incarnation, the truth of the Imago Dei is how we can be objective.
I love the Eucharist. I just want to mention the Eucharist in regards to the incarnation, because I think it gives the incarnation longevity in a way.
Sure.
Because you get to actually like receive the incarnate one.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And what I've been really thinking about recently is that I've been noticing in Catholic circles more people who are sort of claiming that Jesus can't necessarily heal certain aspects of our broken humanity, you know? And in a way, I see it as putting a limit on the incarnation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, he can heal us from that, but not homosexuality.
Yeah, like what?
Like he can't heal. There's no way he can heal homosexuality.
Yeah, and even more extreme, why would he?
Or yeah, exactly. It's not even broken.
Yeah, it's not.
That's broken.
Really?
I'm just differently ordered.
Yeah.
Not disordered.
And differently, I also mean kind of specially.
Exactly.
I'm different and special.
It seems like it's discounting the power of the incarnation.
Absolutely.
You know, it's putting a low ceiling on what Jesus, in fact, is in the business of.
Exactly.
Like redeem. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want us to, in this year, especially as Katie and I are co-directors of Living Waters USA, Katie's she is director at large.
I did get a promotion yesterday. I am the director at large, and people have to call me that. Kind of like you have to say father to a priest or doctor to your professor at college. I'm the director at large. And I don't know what that means, and I don't think anyone does, so it's even more powerful.
No, it means
like at large. No, it's like a criminal at large.
No, it's your director at large because you have a good creativity, and you're able to have your involvement in many things.
My hands in a lot of different pots.
No, really.
I'm a jack of all trade, masters of none.
No, really, Katie's so talented. That's why you're director at large, Katie.
Yes. No, but we are now peers.
Yes.
And he was my boss as of 24 hours ago. And
I don't know if I ever really was.
I mean, do you have big boss energy? Absolutely not.
But was I ever like, I'm Katie's boss?
No, I would say it as a means of like abdicating responsibility.
Like a peer.
Yeah, but it was a way of being like, oh, he's my boss. So, the S word rolls uphill. So I'm like,
not anymore.
I know. I'm the one catching it. So I'm going to be a little more diligent in my duties.
Oh, man. So I want to recommend this wonderful book.
Yes.
Rediscovering Our Lost Fullness. This book is amazing.
It's amazing. So I was rereading a few chapters this morning just in preparation.
Yeah.
It is amazing. The chapter on chastity and then being followed by community. And then it's followed by how like this is in the theology of the body, how that relates, rediscovering our lost fullness in theology of the body. I literally got up. I was like reading it at 5 a.m. I was exhausted. 45 minutes later, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stop reading it because I have to like get ready. It's so good and powerful. Like if you want to know more about like what does it mean to be integrated or chaste, what does it mean to let the incarnation order my sexuality, buy this book.
This book is really where it's at. And I when I was paging through it, I was struck by how much Andrew really explains the need to be responsible as an image bearer.
Yes.
As someone who looks like Jesus, as an incarnate person.
Yes.
We are body, soul, composite, so is Jesus. And we may say, oh my gosh, these mysteries are so wonderful. Well, you know what is amazing about these mysteries is that they're also demanding.
Yes.
Because we have a place as an image bearer. We have a place as bodied creatures. And he helps us in this book to see, well, what is my responsibility as a man, especially if you're struggling with same-sex attraction. He gives a great nuance of, okay, I take responsibility for the areas of my life where I am inclined to lust disorderly, but that's not the end. Jesus has a vision for me, and I have to take responsibility in that. And so in a way, Jesus rediscovers our lost fullness, 100% him, but also 100% you. And I think he gives a lot of hopeful ways of looking at that.
Really good. Great definitions of what is chastity, what does it mean to be chaste, what does it mean to be disintegrated. There's all these terms that if you're in, the DSM Living Waters world, you hear all the time.
Yeah.
But you might not know what it means. They're so helpful and it's so encouraging, but it really does kind of personalize his own story of becoming chaste and other people's stories of becoming chaste and how possible it is and how freeing chastity, as he says that in like chastity is the most freeing concept in the world. Yeah. It's not this heavy burden of, okay, well, you're straight. You're actually straight. Yeah. Right, the gay. You're straight. Like that's how people sort of like, make it like what we do seem like, oh, that's this heavy handed. You're putting these burdens on people as opposed to how beautiful. Like I'm designed for the other. I'm designed to act and live the way I was created to act and live. There's not this split between what God created me to be, man for woman, woman for man. That's indisputable. That's Genesis 1, right? You can't dispute that. So that's how we are. But there are people who are like, well, I'm not attracted to the other. And so I kind of live in these celibate same gender friendships, which to me, that's so burdensome. The truth of like, no, you're made for the other. That
Right.
may be marriage, that may not, but you're made for the other. You're responsible for the other.
Yes.
That's the truth, and
Yeah.
that is as true for you as the result of the fall.
Exactly,
Right? Like
yeah.
we all know that the fall affected us. We inherited the sin of Adam and Eve. We're also inheriting the beauty of the Imago Dei and the innocence that, original innocence that JP2 talks about a lot. It's like, that's so freeing. So we feel the fall, but let's feel like our inclination and our design for the other. That is true.
Yeah.
And chastity is aligning your own desires and practices into what we know to be true. To me, that's freeing.
Yeah.
And so there's freedom in this book.
I
I
agree.
was blown away by rereading it. I was like, this is so good.
Yeah, it's
I think it's a
great.
must read for anyone
Oh, for sure.
who wants to maintain sort of a biblical anthropology.
Yeah.
So if you love John Paul II, if you hear gay Christianity and you're like, that makes me uncomfortable, there's something in that makes me uncomfortable. I don't necessarily want to be a gay Christian, or I don't maybe want to be supporting of gay Christendom because I don't know what that means. Buy this book.
Yeah.
Under-
Or I'm inclined to gay Christendom and I need to
Exactly.
be challenged.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, this is it's a challenge of John Paul II, which I think is in a way cutting edge. You
Yes.
know, it's bringing in John Paul II's thought in a way that is so apropos to those in the LGBT identification. So
Yeah.
please get this.
I feel like, I mean, it's not the theology of the body. I'm not putting it on that level, but like theology of the body was a little ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So we're now reading it, 30 years later, being
Yeah.
like, oh, this was made for us right
Yeah,
now. I
yeah.
feel like this book, 20, 30 years later, people are gonna be like, of course.
this is for me.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it.
And I just want to say the endorsements that Andrew got. So if you're like, why should I get this book? Well, the forward is by, you may not know him, but he's a wonderful Dr. John Haas. He's a professor at St. Charles Seminary in Philadelphia. He's just an incredible thinker, philosopher, ethicist, and good friend of the late Pope Benedict. I mean, if you're a good friend of the late Pope Benedict,
I love Pope
yeah,
Benedict.
Katie's favorite Pope.
He's my favorite saint, even though he's not officially been.
Isn't he awesome?
But he's my absolute favorite. I cannot wait till sorry Protestants, but I cannot wait till I get to, I pray to him now, but like when I want to get to heaven, of course I want to see Jesus, of course. And then I
Yeah,
want to worship
Pope
Jesus
Benedict.
with Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
I want to be like, I love him.
He's awesome.
He's my favorite Pope.
He is awesome. So we got Dr. Christopher West. We also have Dr. Ann Nolte.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Who's a great friend of Desert Stream. We also have Dr. Bob Schutz, Sister Bethany Madonna. We also have some wonderful evangelicals. So we have Ann Polk, who's the founder director of Restored Hope Network. We have Jimmy Seibert, who's the founder of the Antioch Ministries International. We have Carol Wimber, the wife of John Wimber,
Wow.
who was really pivotal in the Vineyard movement. And then, of course, lastly, we have Father Paul Check, who's a Catholic, not evangelical, but he's the executive director of the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. He's just one of the greatest priests. He's amazing. So this book has been endorsed not only by Katie and I, so if you don't trust us, we
Which,
totally understand.
Fair enough, but more bona fides.
These people are trustworthy.
Yes.
So get this book today. I'll put the link in the notes.
Yes.
Well, Katie, this was great.
So
Yes.
like encouraging.
Yeah.
It's really good to just have a conversation with your friends about this.
Yeah.
Honestly, it makes you, whatever your tendency is and the rejection or maybe over sexualization of the body, talk to someone about what it means.
Yeah.
And you're kind of centered, you revere it in a way that you're not prone to reject it or sexualize it. It's just like good reminder.
Yeah.
So have a conversation. Grab a cup of coffee and have a conversation.
Grab a cup of coffee and just snuggle in and have a conversation about the
Talk about it.
incarnation.
Just grab a cup of coffee and talk about it. Go Chiefs.